Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to our family history beyond genealogy and beyond Columbus. Beyond genealogy, because this is more than just a genealogy search. This is recording your history after you've done all the research, after you've documented everything, and now you're ready to share it with your future generations in a way that you can communicate this well with future generations. The idea was Dominic Candeloro's, because this has been his mission through life, through his entire career, to save our stories, and that and so the beyond Columbus part comes from the idea that history isn't just the people that we study. We're part of history. Our lives are part of a collective history too. So welcome. Thank you for coming. Before I leave, I'd like to also mention that we have a film series coming up September 30th and October 7th. Actor and filmmaker Michael Cavalieri emailed me around the same time that we were discussing having this event. And it was just so opportune because Michael Cavalieri produced this film called Ritornato. And I thought, well, of all the times for him to contact me, the film, though it's a work of fiction, it's fact-based, and it's based on this man who returns to his roots as a promise to his dying mother that she be buried next to her father in Italy. And so, as I understand it, Michael Cavalieri, the filmmaker, had recently lost his mother and father, and so the importance of documenting your family history became important to him. And so the story is about him traveling to Sicily. It's filmed in Sicily, and it's filmed with a local cast. And so I believe it's in English and Italian, and it's dubbed in English. And so I thought it dovetails just so lovely with what we're doing. And here we're writing our family history, but this is just using a different medium to do that. So it's a whatever creative medium that you have at your disposal. And for him, it was filmmaking. So I welcome you to come to that if you can. It's on a Friday night, September 30th, about 7:15 p.m. So we'll be here. And Michael Cavalieri will be with us afterwards through Zoom to answer any questions that you may have. So please come. And thank you.
Please note your notebook. Each section has 9 pages for you to take notes on.
Behind each tab. And so I'd like to introduce our leader, Dr. Dominic Candeloro, curator of the library and of the museum.
Okay, I started off aspiring to be an Italian-American professional, but I became a professional Italian-American. And for the past almost 50 years, I've been involved in telling and preserving and advancing and researching the story of the Italian Americans in the U.S. I assumed by your attendance that you agree that our heritage is important. It's important to pass down to the generations. We can't separate ourselves completely from American culture. We are Americans. I'm an American. I have the opportunity to be an Italian citizen, but I'm not an Italian. I am an American. I'm an Italian American. And the story of my family and of your family is an important one. Well, a lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on Columbus and whether Columbus is recognized enough. We know more about Columbus than you know about your grandfather or even your father. And if you did a survey and maybe give your kids a test on what they know about your life, you would be shocked to learn that they know almost nothing about you. And so if it isn't written down, it gets lost. And so our efforts during the past few years has been to save our stories. And there's a handout. Looks like this of stories that Casa Italia Library has saved. We published the ones on the front, and we recommend the ones on the back. There must be 30 or 40 of them. They all save our stories. They're not great literature, except for my book. But they save our stories in a way that you can't otherwise do. And so you're here today to learn how you can save the story of your family. And this is a very human thing to do. It's a way of honoring your father and your mother. It's a way of honoring their sacrifice. You know, I don't want to get political, but it burns me up when I see Italian Americans excoriating immigrants. We are immigrants. We were called blacks. We were discriminated against. And we should have some empathy for the immigrants, the immigration situation. Not that it needs to be chaotic, but the fact is that America would not have gone forward without cheap labor from abroad in the 1900s and beyond. America greatness was built upon the cheap labor of the immigrants and our forebears. So that's good. And another thing is when you work with family history, and I'll show you a little bit of mine. The people who are past are back. They're alive again. They're alive. You're searching out for information about them. You're remembering things. You're looking at their pictures. This validates them and validates their lives. So this is something that we got to do. Italian Americans have not done enough in terms of books, in terms of writing novels about themselves, as some of the other ethnic groups have done, and have been successful in kind of preserving their identity. And that's what we're all about here. And let's see, I had an outline of the 4 things you needed to know, but we talked about intergenerational knowledge. There's nothing there. We spent a lot of time on Columbus, and that's just fine. I think he's worth honoring, and the tradition in our families did honor Columbus. But Columbus isn't the only thing. My grandfather is just as important as Columbus to me. Casa Italia Library is here to help. The whole Casa Italia is here to help. We do a lot of social things, social events, gatherings of one kind or another that continue some of the traditions and keep them alive. So that's good. And then we in the library try to document them all, try to accumulate the records of what happened. We have an archive here that can help you, and we have books, general books on Italian Americans. I say, if you're going to write your family history, you should read a book about Italians in Chicago. Well, I have a book that's entitled, I have 4 or 5 books that are entitled that, but you don't have to read mine. There's several other books about Italians in Chicago that could do. So get sort of the background. And know your American history too, so that you can put your family's experience into context. We're all part of history. And today we'll give you, and later we can give you some genealogical assistance. And we're in touch with our three genealogical presenters, and if you have some questions, we can, in the future, we can always put you in touch with them. And you'll learn a lot today. We want you to envision publishing. We publish on Amazon. We published almost 20 books on Amazon. This autobiography of Paul Chiginello is one of them. It's a couple hundred pages. The reprint of Reconstructing Italians in Chicago. We ran out of the first 100 or first 1,000 copies, and we decided to switch publishing to Amazon. You can publish your book on Amazon and with no upfront charge. You pay for it by the book. It's published on demand. So we can guide you through a lot of that if you're interested. And everyone can publish. And it's published not just as a book, but as an ebook as well. That's available through Kindle around the world. So we've got a lot to offer. And when you're done writing and you're looking around for someone to give your resource material to, give it to us. We'll put it in the archives. Don't give it to your kid. They won't know what they're doing. We'll probably get lost in a flood. And we have our archives are a repository for a lot of things. We also have a website that's take this down, tinyurl.com/Casa Library, one word. tinyurl.com/Casa Library. There are hundreds and hundreds of links to hundreds and hundreds of resource materials that we have in our archives or that are useful in reconstructing the history of Italians in Chicago. So we've got a lot of resources here for you to work with, and in order to encourage you, well, come in and volunteer on Wednesdays. I think if you talk to any of the volunteers around here, they're not wearing red hats or anything, but we had a great time on Wednesday afternoons here. And we have espresso at 2:30, and we're involved in preserving the Italian American story the rest of the time on Wednesdays. We do it on other days too, but it's always I mention. And there's one of the things that a lot of family history can be built on is oral history. We have done hundreds of oral histories through the Casa Italia, and they are mostly online at that URL that I mentioned, and you can listen to them and read them at the same time when the technology is going right. And Tony Morrow put it all together several years ago. And I won't mention how many. And then the last point I want to leave you with is that you know me, I'm not that smart, but I could do it, and I'm doing it. And if I could do it, you can do it. You owe it to your family. You owe it to the community. Can we bring it up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show you some of the pages of the family history that I have that I'm working on right now, and it's unique. I got together a lot of pictures, a lot of scrap that was handed down, little pieces of paper here and there. One thing that I found was my mother and father's account book of their wedding. They went what were the expenses for the wedding reception? Who gave what? There's a list of women who gave, I must have been more of a shower than the household items, then. The list of the envelopes that were given, and this was in 1931, so the people were not very wealthy at that point. The biggest donor was my great aunt and uncle with $20. And we have a lot of talent in the room. John Cavalone here, in addition to all the other things he does, he designs the covers of our books. And what I did was take my pictures and told whoever it was, whatever the app was, make a collage. They did it. I sent it to John. He put this collage on the cover. These are various members of the family, etc. For the, okay, we go, which way to go? How do we move it?
Left or right?
Left or right? It's not moving. Well, anyhow, I was going to show you a few other pages as we go along. Oh, it scrolls up and down.
No, left and right now.
It's up and down. Okay, I won't describe every page, but we'll just go through there. A picture of me that I got fairly easily. A general family tree, and some other records. And this is an introduction. The two towns that my mother and father were from, and then visits to those two towns by our current family, and the people in Casale, the people from Amazzano, and here is a branch of the family that celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and still some blank pages. Then I've blown up some of the records, the Ellis Island records, and put them in yellow. My Lorenzo Gianetti is the person under consideration, and a person I didn't know of before was my grandfather's brother Giacinto, so that helped. This is my center, that beige document is citizenship in 1905, I think. And this is my mother's birth record from Amazzano. This is my grandchildren and my daughter and her my son-in-law in front of the house that my mother was born in. And some more highlighted things, passports, and there's an interesting situation where a great aunt of mine brought with her a niece of hers as her ward. She had adopted her, and here's information about that. And some other information about, this is a receipt for money received or spent on property that they kept in Italy. This is my grandparents' wedding and my father's birth certificate. This is information from an Australian cousin, which is a rundown of the people of the family that he knows. So it's a lot of raw material that I try to put in for the flavor of the search. And this is my father's military record in World War I, and there's translation going down there, and a medal that he and I think a million other people received for service in World War I. The other thing, this is a registration card for World War I that my grandfather did here in Chicago Heights, the census records, again using the yellow. This is a portrait painted of the family in the 50s, no, in the 20s. This is my mother's eighth grade graduation diploma was this big. So, and she did not go on to high school in those days. A listing out of a phone book to show that the Genetti's, Lawrence Genetti, 101 East 23rd Street, had a phone. So that's a phone number too, if you want to call them. My father was an illegal immigrant. It can be said now. After in 1925, he came to New Orleans from Cuba, and we have the documentation. And if you look carefully, he had $0 with him, and he showed up a little bit later in Chicago. He had some money in a bank that failed. Here's a bank book of his at about the time he got married, and a marriage certificate. This is the wedding party. It's in that position because you could open it out and look in the book. This is their wedding picture. There's something about wedding customs and the peanut weddings, a reference to that. This is a composition book with all the information about who gave what to whom, and there you see the list of people and $4, $5, $85 in that column, and then you got some pajamas from Papetto, Luigi Papetto. Okay, and then other stuff. And here is the thing, I figured out how many people they must have had. They must have had 200 people because they had 80 chickens. And if you split up 80 chickens, it could be 200. And here are the other, the bakery, the bills for the bakery and the corner store and that stuff. This is a material from the Amazano Lodge that just turned 100 years old. That picture at the bottom is a banquet that celebrated 100 years. My uncle was kidnapped for he was shot at a gas station, and he made it into the paper. And I have material here about that, about his family. This is my father's union card, and we talk about his work, etc. And the big section is my baptism. I was almost 2 years old when I was baptized. And World War II, letters from my uncles to my sisters, telling them to do well in school. Don't worry about us in the Army and Navy. And this is a classic picture when I was 5 years old in front of our house on my bike. This is me with Santa, my father's citizenship, etc. So there's a lot of memories of old times. We have Angela Gianetti, last name spelled wrong, but there's her obituary in 1953, and some other kinds of stuff around the house in the 50s and 60s. Me and Eagle Eye, the dog. That's my sister Angie, who was the oldest, and she was our Americanizing leader. She graduated from high school, got a good job as a secretary to a president of a company. She got my sister a job. She got me a job. She bought the first car. She made headway in the American system, and she taught me how to write and all that sort of thing. There's family gatherings here and other photographs, a lot heavy on photographs. And I come to a point where I'm talking about my uncles and my cousins, and I'm running out of stories about them. I really focus on my memories of the 50s and 60s, but I feel it necessary to include the rest of these folks. And I'm just gonna give picture pages to most of the cousins. If they don't like it, they can they can let me know, or we can revise it, we can expand it. I've made several efforts to get them to cooperate with me, collaborate. I haven't had much luck, but maybe if I leave them out for the first one, we'll get some invitation. And these are the cousins that I don't know what the hell to do with. And that's about it. It's hanging. I hope, because as you know, the information isn't passed on unless you will it to be. And your story, family story will be lost if you don't do it. So that doesn't put a guilt trip on you. I don't know what will. But we at Casa Italia are in the business of trying to maintain some of our identity, our culture. And it's not just the culture of Michelangelo and Donatello. It's the culture of living out during the mind. And their journey in America, and their life experience of crusade to move forward and to make the school year. So thank you very much. You've got the real activates coming up. We have an announcement, question?
Interviewing family members.
Oh, there's something in the handout about interviewing. The one that's already filled out, I can't remember who the woman was, but Katerina Valenti, okay. That was used in 1980, if you can imagine, 1980, to, as a precursor to an oral history. Don't expect them to give you all their data verbally. Just have a free interview with them, have them fill out the form, so you know all the basics and who's related to whom and where they came from and how their name is spelled and what their education background was, the military background. So you've got the basic outline facts, and then you should ask questions that are open. The worst type of question that you can ask is the one that has the answer yes or no. Tell us about. And if the person starts talking about politics, and steer them away from it, let's get back to the past. That's the main thing we want. And it is possible to use a camera, a phone, an iPhone, to do an oral history. And you can upload it to YouTube, and YouTube automatically transcribes everything. And so you've got the person's interview all typed out, except there's a lot of gibberish in there. Because artificial intelligence hasn't kicked in sufficiently, and so. But I with this book, Paul Chiminello, I interviewed him a half a dozen times, and we put it on Facebook, on YouTube, and the gibberish came out, but his wife was so dedicated to this that she put it all on. And so it was beautiful. And Paul Chiminello was in show business, and he kept just about every pamphlet or letter that, or picture that came through his office. And we have quite a nice compendium of information about this guy, Paul Chiminello. And it's of interest to I don't know who, but it's here, and it is a true Italian story. He tells us a little bit about the Italian American community. Any really quick questions? Okay, well, yeah, we should go on. Who's next?